To the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talks, where we talk about life, love, and business. I am your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, and we're just going to have a little chat this morning. There's been a theme, an interesting theme that people have either been talking to me about, or I had a couple of people that booked me, and the theme was the same. And I thought it's interesting to talk about that energy, because it was really some really powerful revelations that I experienced. Wa alaikum salam. Welcome, welcome. Come on in the room. So once we get about a minute or so in, we're going to do a 5-minute motivation. And we're going to talk about blind spots and subconscious programming this morning, because blind spots are... It's crazy. It's really crazy how we can go through and not even know that we're blind to certain things. So come on in the room. Welcome, welcome. We got Brother Lamont 73, Thousands Black Tax Prep, VG Queen. Hey Mom, assalamu alaikum. We got September Treasures. Welcome, welcome. Nubia La Flo. Welcome, welcome. How many of y'all are participating in the Mo Today Manifestation Series? Assalamu alaikum. This is Sister Alita. Welcome, welcome. September Treasures. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you. How many of you all are participating in the Mo Today Manifestation Series? And how are you liking the series so far? This week we have a really good series coming up. Part 4 is entitled, I Will That Which I Will to Be, or I Am That Which I Will to Be. I am that which I will to be, which is really, really powerful. All right, Succeedings has joined us as well. All right, so we got a 5-minute motivation, and we're going to have a conversation about blind spots and subconscious programming. So here we go. Sit back, listen to this, and give me a thumbs up if you can hear it okay.
Talented you are. I don't care how much you work on yourself. There's some times when things aren't going to go right. There are times when anything that can happen will happen. Life happens. The unexpected, the uncalled for, the unintentional. We've been damaged emotionally. Damaged spiritually.
It may be your business. It may be your heart that is broken today. It may be the number in your bank account that is screaming, you are broke.
You can break physically, you can break mentally, you can break your heart, you can break your spirit, and all of those are going to leave a mark. But the mark that they leave can be the mark of victory, or it can be the mark of defeat.
It is staying with the breaking that produces the blessing. It is not what you go through that determines where you end up. It's who you listen to. Because I think right now, you are walking through a valley between two voices. One is wisdom, one is worry. One is gratitude, one is grumbling.
Good morning, Brother Kevin.
One is blame, one is faith.
Because every time you break, and in every way that you break, while it's a chance for you to give up and for you to fall apart, but there's also opportunity to get stronger, and get smarter, and get faster, and get tougher, and get more stable, and get more resilient, and get better.
What I need you to do is I need you to find a reason to keep going. And if you can find a reason to keep going, I know you're strong enough to do it, because you knew it. And every human has what it takes to get past whatever they're going through if they decide to. Push through it.
Push through
it. Tragedy and trials come to everybody. Only the strong survive.
The fight isn't over. The fight is just beginning. You have the opportunity to show the world what you are really
that sickness that's going on in your life right now, whatever it is, I want you to say, I can beat it. I can beat it. I will beat it. I must. I got a family to live for. I ain't through yet. My life ain't over yet. There's some things in life you don't need no degree for. You don't need no money for it. You don't need no support for it. There's something in life you just gonna get through when you tell yourself, I'm gonna get through this. Regardless of what happens to you in life, regardless of the adversity, regardless of the opposition, regardless of the trial and tribulation, nothing can stop you. The only thing that can stop you is you. No situation, no circumstance, no piece of adversity can define your life. Never let a circumstance define you.
And I'm not retreating. I'm not running. I don't care what they say on paper. I don't care if you say we outnumbered. We live by this and we die by this. We don't retreat. We don't run. We don't stand. We don't live. We don't die by what we stand for. And everybody gonna know what we represent and what we're part of.
I got staying power. I got staying power.
Be encouraged today that no matter what you walk through, no matter how broken your marriage is, no matter how many times you fail,
there is within you a spirit that is greater than whatever is going on around you.
If you would be willing to fight your way through this battle, fight your way through cancer, fight your way through that academic struggle, fight your way through divorce, fight your way through it. If you are willing to fight your way through that stinging career, fight your way through boxing, fight your way through football, I'm telling you, at the end of the fight is going to come victory.
D8 Waters E28, welcome. Thank you all for listening to that. I listened to that earlier this week, and it it touched my spirit, so I thought to play it today. And let me tell you, we talk about, especially in the manifestation series, about subconscious programming and all of that kind of stuff and how you can really program your mind. But let me tell you a story that one of my clients shared with me. And I asked her, I said, I won't say your name, but are you okay with me just sharing your story? And she said, please do. So I won't say her name. She booked me this week to help her to get key points together for a speech she was doing to a domestic violence shelter. And she's not per se a victim of physical domestic violence, excuse me, but she had gone through some things that she felt are good for this particular shelter that she works with. And so she was giving a speech. So anyway, so we're working together. I'm working with her to help her put together some impact statements, right, for the speech. So she booked the session. We're going through it. We do a 2-hour session. And let me just tell you, she is a recent divorcee, 51 years old. She has a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. And she said that she's an attorney, and her husband is also an attorney. So they make decent money. They're upper middle class Black people. And so she said that she and her husband were very comfortable. She said, but they just weren't into each other. And she said, he wasn't into me, and I just wasn't into him. She said, of course, I love him, and he loves me. And we love the institution of the family we built. We had nice homes, nice cars, children in great schools. She said, but I didn't love him. And I said, well, what do you mean you didn't love him? She said, well, I didn't love him enough to hook him up sexually. She said, I didn't really love him enough to take care of him if he was sick, or rub his feet, or, just love on him, help him with his clothes, or just whatever it was he was going through. She said, we're both attorneys. I probably could have, been more loving in terms of supporting him. She said, I just wasn't into him like that. She said, but he wasn't into me either. And she said he was very manipulative. And she said he was very unhappy. He had some bouts with illnesses because he was unhappy. And she said that, she just realized they weren't into each other. And so they ended up going through the divorce finally. And she said that when she started working for this domestic violence shelter, she started seeing a pattern in the lives of those women that she saw in her life and her husband's life as well. And she said that one day she said, you know, you got teenagers. She said she's struggling sometimes with her teenagers. And what she realized was that her son treated her the way her husband did. And that her daughter, who was kind of starting to toy around with boys and stuff at 13 in school, was getting treated by boys the way she got treated by her husband. And so she said that it really caused her to break down, because she started to realize that she had been contributing to a subconscious programming, which is what a lot of these women in the shelter have been experiencing. See, because many of them came from situations where their parents or a significant family member had been abused. And somehow in their subconscious programming, they thought it was okay. And so she says she noticed, even though she wasn't a victim of domestic violence, that her and her husband had subconsciously programmed the children in the name of, we stand in this for them. And she said, I watched my son literally treat me the way my husband used to treat me. She said, and I watched my daughter allow herself to be treated by boys the way I allowed myself to be treated by her father. And so she said one day she decided, she said she ordered a pizza, and because they like pizza, and she said that she just sat down and she talked to them. And she said that she apologized to them. She said, I want to show you all what it means to be triumphant. Meaning to see myself in a situation that isn't working for me and to intelligently move on to something else so that you can see mommy, who you are subconsciously attached to, and daddy be in healthy situations, so that you can understand that healthy situations are normal and not these unhealthy patterns that you're developing as children. And she said they just looked at her. You know, she said they said a few things, the children. I won't repeat what the children said because I don't want to expose too much. But she said that they were kind of like, yeah, we thought this is how you do it. Her son was like, I thought that's how I go. Because he had watched his father treat her a certain way. So he thought, this is how I treat mommy, and this is how I treat all the other girls at school. And her daughter had watched her, and she thought, oh, this is how I'd be a girlfriend. And so she later talked to her ex-husband. And they, interestingly, both agreed that, because they're both in new relationships. She's dating and he's remarried. And so she asked him, she said, would you please share with your son the new love that you have and how much you love your new wife and how you had to evolve into that love so that he doesn't get stuck in the place where he was or where he is based on looking at us and what we subjected him to in the name of we stand for the money, we stand for the kids and all that. And I was like, wow. That's powerful. And she asked him, she said, would you also talk to your daughter so that she doesn't think that this is normal? And for you and your wife to show the children what real love means. And she says, and I'm going to try to do the same thing because we have to reprogram them. Because in the name of us being, she used a word, I can't remember the word. But in other words, staying for the money and the children and the family and the institution, and I think either one of them was up for partner, and there was a history at the firm that they didn't really make divorced people partners. And I said, well, then they're not into healthy people, they're into people who just comply. So she told me this whole story, and I told her, I said, that's your speech right there. And so we went through and kind of tweaked the story, and I helped her pull out some more details. But how many of us are practicing behaviors that are impacting our children? How many of us are practicing behaviors that came from programming that we watched growing up? Because we're teaching them how to move through life because they're watching us. They're watching us. It's funny because Aletha and I were having a conversation yesterday about blind spots, and the subconscious programming is deep. Have you ever been in a situation where maybe you broke up with somebody or you went on to another thing and you said, what was I thinking? Or you worked a job and you're like, what in the world was I thinking? Because at some point you became blinded by some subconscious programming that made it so that you really couldn't see in a healthy way. You couldn't. You just couldn't see yourself. You couldn't see your value. You couldn't see who you are. You couldn't walk into the love that you deserve. And I'm not necessarily just talking about a relationship. I'm talking about things you should have. I remember a friend of mine was about to get a new car, and I went to the dealership with him. He actually came to the dealership with me because I was buying a car or trading in a car or something like that, selling a car, and he came with me. And I was like, okay. And he had this thing where, no, as a woman, they're not going to treat you right or whatever. And I was like, all right, that's cool. So he came. Went to the dealership. So then he started looking for a car. And his brother was with him. And so we were all just laughing because we're all great friends. And so we're all cracking up at these different cars. And so the car that they were trying to sell him was a car that was here at this level. And that car I thought matched his lifestyle and his personality. But he kept trying to get the car that was down here. And I remember asking him, and I said, what is it about you that's making you feel like, because you keep having this less than conversation, less than, subtraction. And he said, wow, I never realized that. It's what this woman talked to me about this week, is subconscious programming. And this is what we do to our children, our godchildren, our nieces, our nephews, because if they look up to us, they see us having a lifestyle that they may agree with or not agree with, but they look at us and they're mimicking those behaviors, and especially when we're their parents. So, don't show your children a way to be winners. This is the thing. See, the old school way of living was, I got to stay in this job. I got to stay in this marriage. I got to take care of the children, and they need us, and blah, 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 blah. But what we did was we taught our children to stay in situations and accept situations that don't serve them. And then we live these dishonest lives because we feel like we got to stay. What I'm saying is, maybe we should evolve that. And maybe now we should begin to say, let me show my children what it means to be happy, what it means to be honest with yourself, what it means to love yourself, so that they're not so subjected to abuse and so that they don't abuse someone else. When this woman told me that her 15-year-old son had begun to treat and talk to her the way her husband did, it just sent a current all through my body. And when she told me that her daughter was going to school and looking at herself in a relationship with a little boyfriend she got and handling it the exact same way that she handled her husband, I was like, that's deep. It seems so simple, but it's deep. And so she says she realized through her studies and being an attorney that I couldn't talk them out of this behavior. I had to show them out of this behavior. And she said, and I needed my husband, my ex-husband, to help me do that. I needed him and his new wife to also show them a new way to be. And I'm going to strive to show them a new way of being so that they have examples in their head. And they won't grow up with these limited views of themselves like we did. Very powerful. And so when she was talking, what was coming to me is instead of living a life of subtraction and holding, because a lot of us believe that that's what love is. We have to get a position, find someone, possession, holding, ownership, restriction, whatever we got, we want to hold on to it. We hoard, we hang on. It's just the whole energy concept is we're never going to get any more money, so let me hold on to every dollar I got. Or I'm never going to get to another position in life, so let me do whatever I got to do to hold on to this position. And so in holding, what's the dominant energy? The dominant energy is that you're not going to get it again. That this is all you got. And so you're living a life of subtraction. And when I was talking to her, the thing that came to my mind was you have to be open to receive. Because it's in the receivership that you solve your problems. It's in the receivership, and in her case and her husband's case, wrapped up in letting go of what wasn't working was the love that they both deserve, was the love that would fuel them to that next level of their life. That love that says, you deserve more. You can have more. You can have that relationship. You can have that car. You can have that business. You can have those children. You can add to life. But you can't add to life if you're holding on to something old. And when you open up to receivership, what's for you is going to be there. See, I think because we live in this world where we're always taught that nobody's going to give us anything, we don't deserve the best, we can't have the best, now we think we got to hold on to what's wrong. This whole thing of, what is it? A bird in the bush is better than two in the, all this little stuff. I can't even think of the old school thing now, but there's stuff that we think. A bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. And so what we do is we think, well, I'm going to hold on to the bird in the hand. And if the bird in the hand is dead, why are you still holding on to the bird? Or if the bird can't live in your hand, why are you still holding on? And we do that with our jobs. We just live that in our lives in general. It shows up in our DNA. It shows up in our weight, in our body. When we learn to let go and open up, then all those things that we're looking for have the freedom to come into our life. And so we have to say to ourselves, I am in receiving mode. I'm receiving. I'm open. And I remember hearing that when I got my first emotional intelligence certification. I actually took 2 certifications because I wanted to explore the 2 different schools of thought. One school of thought was based on metaphysics, and the other school of thought was based on Daniel Goleman's concept that also includes like social intelligence. The one on metaphysics said that you should live your life, and that what you should say to yourself every morning is that I'm in receiving mode. I'm receiving. I'm open and I'm receiving. Because in that, it is a release of the emotions of possession that most of us live by. And that's what this lady was talking about. That emotion of possession, the emotion that possession produces. I own you. I have to have you. Even if you're not happy here, even if you're dying here, even if I'm dying here, whether it's on this job, in this relationship, in this situation, I don't care. because you're mine and I'm holding on to you. And that's my definition of love, is ownership. See, if you notice companies, for example, who have that sort of receiving type of mindset, where they allow their clients and their employees to explore and learn and have creative reign in a lot of ways, as long as it's within the parameters, those usually are the companies that are more innovative, more successful, all of that. Those are usually those companies. So, and don't get me wrong, there are parameters that you have to put in any arrangements. Any arrangement is a contractual relationship. And of course, there are things that you have to say, look, this is a no-brainer. You can't do this and I can't do that. You got to do that. But when you get to the point, like in the case of this woman, where you're going through the motions to the point and you got little people looking at you and little minds modeling themselves after you, it's very important that we try to figure out how to not be so old school, but to actually show them, how do you go for what you want? How do you love yourself? Because, man, that stuff becomes blind spots. Like I said, Alita and I were talking yesterday about how these damn blind spots are so tricky that you find yourself looking back and going, what the hell was I thinking? And you don't even, you try to go back and you spend time dissecting and you try to get the deceptive intelligence together as to why you did what you did. But when I look at it, it's just the energy space that you were in at the time. And when I bring it all the way back to energy, I go back to, what energy space was I in at the time that I experienced that blind spot? And so what I told this lady that came to me, we're working through her speech for the domestic violence shelter, and I said, this is about an energy space. You found your son treating you a certain way, gave you access or insight into an energy space. And then your conversation led you all down the path to a new energy space. Your conversation with your ex-husband and his new wife, your conversation with your children, your conversation with the guy you're with, you opened up new pathways. And she said that she went on to say to me that, interestingly, she said her daughter has been relatively quiet about it. And I said, yeah, it's because with girls it's hard to break the programming. But she said that her son has been really open and having conversations. And she said that as he's having conversations with her, she said that she finds it almost heartbreaking. Her heart breaks on the inside because he's unraveling what he's watched. And she goes, and she kept emphasizing, she said, I'm not saying that we had domestic violence. I'm not saying that we lived in a poor neighborhood. I'm not saying that we argued a lot. She said, we were, by all intents and purposes, to our people on the outside, the perfect couple. She said, we were the perfect couple. She said, we had the big house, we had the cars, we had the jobs, we had the 2 children in school and sports and all of that. And she said, and then here we are programming our children to be abusers and victims. And I said, that is so perfect for the domestic violence shelter, because, I think we think about that when we think of extreme behaviors. So I think if I told you that story in context of the domestic violence shelter and the incidences that happen with those women and men, because men get abused too, I think you would get it, or it would be obvious, right? But when you think about it, and you think about it from a standpoint of a quote-unquote normal-looking family, we have to think about, what are we demonstrating? What can people see? And in a lot of cases, you don't know the example that you are for people. I know when I wrote my first book, actually, when when I started the whole Mind of an Entrepreneur podcast and movement in 2009, I struggled. And I struggled because I wouldn't accept the audience that God was giving me. I was struggling because I, in my mind, wrote the book and everything. I said, there's people out here like me who need these strategies. They're going through this or that in the corporate world. And I think that's still true to this day. But I started to have an inordinate amount of really young people who gravitated to the podcast and gravitated to the book and gravitated to the things that I was doing. And I thought, well, how am I going to ever monetize this if I only got 15 and 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds who like this? And that's where my mind was at the time. And as I started to evolve as a conscious entrepreneur and understand the value of proper selection of stakeholders, I realized that this is the right thing to do. And the adults will come on board eventually, but they gravitated first. And I thought that was interesting. And what it taught me was that we don't know what an example we are to other people, to other children. And so it's very important that we live our lives in a way that is authentic and that we're open with the children and the young people in our lives about our emotions. Because I think what happens is a lot of us, we talk to youth, we talk to young adults, but we're not open about our emotions. We don't say, you know what, this is how I feel. This is what I've gone through. And that's what this lady was talking to me about. See, she sat down with her children and she was very open about her emotions. And it just unlocked, she said, for her and her 15-year-old son, how he is really open to talking to her. She said he talks to her about, and he asks her questions. Mom, do I say this or do I say that? And she said when she started to see the extent to which his language had mimicked how his dad had related to her, she said it was just heartbreaking. And so I also thought that it was big of her, to go to her ex-husband and to have that conversation and ask him to allow their son and daughter into his life emotionally, his life with his new wife emotionally, and that they allow them to see and have happy, healthy, emotional relationships. And that's really important. And this is so one of the things I cannot stand about our entertainment industry. And it's one of the reasons why I'm into show development and film development and executive producing and writing scripts and putting things together. Yeah, I agree, Brother Jamil. What a mature thing to request and a bold thing to request, because she didn't know how he was going to take it. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat as she's talking, like, okay, what'd he say? And she said, he sat back and he said, you're right. You're so right. And through that real family support, she sees her son changing. But one of the reasons why I'm into script writing and I'm working on a few things, I've executive produced some movies and stuff, is because for so many of us who are victims of various different types of subconscious programming, seeing, I would say, family-related subconscious programming, seeing certain images on television that can help to inspire us is very important. Seeing the lives of people who are successful and how they got there is important. See, because once you see it and once you experience it, you can do it. It's like the 1 minute, what is it, the 4 minute mile rule, where before that, nobody could do it. Nobody could, run the mile that quickly. But every time somebody breaks a record, then somebody else comes along behind it and breaks it and breaks it and breaks it. Why is that? Because there's something about the human mind. Once you see it, you can get it right. So rarely do you see, you got the Guinness Book of World Records where people do things. But anytime you see somebody do something really great, you will see someone shortly afterwards break that person's record. I thought about this when my dad passed. The day he passed, his basketball record was broken at the high school he went to. He had scored like 52 points or something like that in a game, or 60 points. And a person on that day scored 60 points in a game. That's what it was. And I just thought, look at that. Because life evolves. So once you see it, you're able to do it. So once your children see that, you put them in front of better examples. You become a better example. You find people that you can look at that can be examples to you. Once you see it, once you experience the energy, and if the person is forthcoming and tells you emotionally, listen, this is what happened to me and this is how I got here. This is why I do what I do. Because once you hear it, once you see the emotional process, you can do it. It's just how the brain works. It's how your emotional system is wired. Once you see it, you can do it. So if you're there and you feel like, man, I don't know if I can ever get out of this situation, or I don't know if I could ever face, in this particular woman's case, one of them was up for partner, and they were like, I don't know if I can face the firm and say, hey, I know you all have invested a lot in me, and you have me on the partnership track, and divorce is a no-no on the partnership track. Well, guess what? I'm divorced. And I don't know, whatever, we didn't go down the road of what happened professionally, but she didn't seem like she had skipped a beat, neither did the husband, so I'm sure it was okay. But in cases like that, where you make a god out of somebody or something, and you become polytheistic, and you go, okay, if I don't do this or this, then they're gonna look at me a certain way. Oftentimes when you live your truth, you'd be surprised at how many people around you needed the courage and who you inspire to live their truth as well. So you may lose a job, you may not lose a job, but you'll always gain something better and something new and something bigger when you let go and move into the receivership of life. Now, when you start receiving, you may end up moving around a little bit, but trust me, when you receive, what you continue to get that flows through you will be better than what you got when you live that life of subtraction and hoarding. It's interesting, very interesting comments. So anyway, that's all about the blind spots I wanted to tell you. And just, I used to have a class that I used to teach called Moving Past Your Blind Spots. And it's really about learning how to reprogram your mind and living in receivership. So receivership means what? Living in a space of non-resistant. What does that mean? Non-resistant thought, non-resistant actions, getting up in the morning, saying your prayers, meditating, praying and meditating throughout the day. As Muslims, we have prescribed times a day for prayer. Say those prayers, move into a short meditation if you have time. I realize a lot of us are working. Doing that throughout the course of the day, before you embark upon something big, quick prayer, motivation. Before you go to bed, pray, motivation. Keep yourself in receivership mode. And say to the God that you serve, I receive you. Not, man, I thought I told you, blah, blah, blah. like I said, Mary said to Jesus, if you've been here, he wouldn't have died. Not that. I'm talking about just being open and receiving God. He knows better than you do. He knows better than I do. He knows better than we do. And so when we open up and receive, and we're not pushing back and always asking for something and always trying to get something or always taking score. All right, Allah, I asked you yesterday for this money and it still ain't here. And I asked you the day before and the day before and the day before. What in the world am I going to do? Pull back. Pull back from all of that and just say, Allah, I receive you. I receive you. I receive your blessings. I receive your decisions. I even receive why you've held this back from me for the amount of time that you have. I get it. And I receive that what you're going to give me is going to be even bigger and better than what I have ever experienced or imagined. I am in receiving mode. I receive you. And walk through life in receiving mode. That doesn't mean that things are going to fall away from you or you're going to start having problems, but just receive. See, anything that happens, no matter what happens, from death to love, to money, to gains, to losses, you want to be in a space of peace and you want to be in a space of receivership. Peace and receivership. That's where you want to be. Because then you can overcome anything. You can then see your way through to the other side of the coin. Because at the end of the day, God is always building us up to something. He's always working on us and using our emotions to point us in one direction or another. And if we hard-headed and like this woman said that her and her husband were, and we're like, no, whatever. We want the partnerships and the money. We're going to stay. Then he goes, okay. But in her case, she got some beautiful grace because she really got to see how they had impacted their children. And she was humble enough to not make her accomplishments her God and say, yeah, but, and yeah, but. So stay in receivership mode. Receive. Stop arguing with God. Stop begging God. Stop fussing at God. Stop being mad. And receive. Receive exactly where you are right now, today. Even if you don't like the situation, everything starts now. Because starting now and receiving now sets you at the right starting point, puts you at the right set point. It's like a compass, right? When you turn on the navigation, the first thing the navigation does is tries to figure out where you are. Once it understands where you are, then it tells you, put the address in, where you're trying to go, and it can tell you how to get there. But it can't tell you how to get there if it doesn't know where you are. And so if you're lying to yourself and saying, I'm not here, I'm not over here on 10th Street, I'm over there on 15th Street, and it asks you where you are and you type 15th Street, then it's going to give you the directions to where you're going from 15th Street and not from 10th Street where you are. Y'all get that? Say something to me in the chat if y'all get that. It's going to give you those directions from where you say you are, not from where you truly are. So when you put yourself in receiving mode and you accept where you are, you say, this is where I am. Then the universe can give you directions on where you are to go. But if you say, this ain't where I am, and I'm over here on 125th Street, but you're really downtown on Madison and State, how's it going to get you? How's it going to get you where you're trying to go? When your set point, your starting point is wrong. And then, just like a navigation, when it starts to give you the directions, go down 500 feet, make a right, all of this kind of stuff, it'll become more clear. Because as you're on the journey, you have to be in receivership mode, right? Because when the navigation starts to tell you, get on the highway, get off at exit 32, blah, 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 blah. If you're not listening and you say, I don't want to get off on exit 32. I ain't listening to you. I'm not in receivership mode. Not only did you start off in the wrong direction or at the wrong location, now you're not even listening to what the navigation is saying. How in the world are you going to get there? It said get off on exit 32 and make a right. You just kept going. You're going to get off on exit 60 and make a left. Are you going to get there? No. And so see, that's what we do with our mind. That's what we do with our mind. So let's start right where we are, being grateful for where we are. Let's be honest with ourselves. And then be in receipt of where it is we want to go. Hold where we want to go in our intention and in our mind's eye. And sit with that. Sit with where you are and sit with where you want to go. Just like a GPS. You got to sit there, put that car in park, make sure that the GPS knows where you are and then where you're going. And then you start rolling. And then you start moving. But if you start moving and you're putting in the wrong directions and you're not listening to where they say turn and where to go and where not to go, or if you keep stopping and you got a certain amount of time so you can get there and get your connection, it's not going to happen. So anyway, I pray you all got something out of that today. That session with my client just really touched me. I was so impressed by her boldness, by her openness, by her willingness to share. And she blessed me with that. And inshallah, she blessed the domestic violence shelter members that she spoke to. But most importantly, I just looked at the impact that she had on her children, on her ex-husband and his wife and her current relationship. What a powerful revelation being in receivership was for her and can be for us. So anyway, with that, let's get ready for part 4 of the manifestation series. It's going to be called I Am What I Will to Be. And I'll do an audio read, inshallah, tomorrow, so you all can go out and listen to that. If you want to listen to that class again or start over from part 1 and just go 1, 2, 3, you can just go to my YouTube channel and do that and listen. You can listen to other shows there. You can listen to past episodes of the Coffee Talks there, past episodes of the Mo Today series on Black Muslim businesses there. So just go there. Make sure everybody subscribe to the channel for me. I'm trying to get myself up to 400 subscribers. So that's the goal, immediate goal in the next couple of weeks. So go out, subscribe, tell anybody you know, click the subscribe button and like the page. And let's stay in touch. Make sure you get your commemorative Elijah coin pendant. I didn't wear mine today because I decided to wear this beautiful gift that I was given by a very spiritual sister that blessed me with it. Make sure you get your commemorative Elijah coins. The graded ones are $500. The pendants are $350. They're out there. We got tams and beanies. They're out there as well. Click the link in the bio and you can go there. We got about a minute or so. I'm not going to play a song because, you know, YouTube be trying to, they like to block you and shadow block you and cut you off when you play music. They got a lot of nerve. Don't get me started on that. But anyway, let me know in the chat how you like today's talk, how you've been liking the manifestation series. In the next couple of minutes, let me know what you've noticed from your mindset or what's beginning to manifest around you as a result of the series or these courses. What's the YouTube name? It's the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube page. Let me put that in the chat. Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube page. And there's a link in the bio to the page in case you all forget or you don't go there right now, there's a link in the bio. There's a link in the bio to purchase the items I talked about. There's a link in the bio to donate to Sajdah House and all that stuff. Divine Tranquility 7 said, beautiful. Just started watching the series as I was led to your channel by watching your interview with Sister Allison. Love it. All praises due to Allah. I love Sister Allison. She's a very spiritual person, very connected to the spirit. It's amazing. She's amazing. I had an eye-opener self-examination. That's what September Treasure said. Yeah, and those are beautiful moments, right? When you have that own personal, what Oprah calls that aha moment, when you go, ooh, is that me? Point Praise 2 said, I love today, was awesome, magnificently delivered. Thank you so much, Mo Today Universe. D8P Water, absolutely beautiful, on time, much needed reinforcement. Thank you, appreciate it. All praises due to Allah. Sun Seedlings said, honestly, before I came to your live, I was having a very similar talk with myself. Very divine. Look at Allah. I try to stay open and in that receivership mode, because I said, whatever's on my mind, somebody must need it. Rox28X said, I love the manifestation series. It has helped me to see Allah in everything. That is so important. When I learned that at a very early age, I have kept that close to my heart. And I look for Allah in everything. I try to be open and to receive. And it's just been amazing. Brother Lamont 73 says, always on time, every message from you. Thank you, Brother Lamont. Appreciate that. Thank you all. Thank you all for your wonderful compliments. That means so much to me. I do this because for me, I needed, when I was starting out in business and just kind of navigating, I needed somebody to just come on, whether it's YouTube or whatever, and talk about this kind of stuff. I needed those mental strategies. And so I just fell in love with the whole concept of the mind, the mental strategies. Aletha says, I am always blessed when I tune into the sessions. Oh, Aletha, thank you, Alethea. And Rox28X said, it helps me to connect the dots in my life. Thank you so much. Praise be to Allah. And it's because, when I was kind of living in that sort of all-white world, and I don't want to bring race into it to make it seem like it's racial, but it is. Because I was living in that corporate world. I got that far, but I didn't know mentally what more I needed to do. I didn't know that it was in me to do more. I thought it was interesting. Oh, let me tell y'all a quick story. I got 1 minute to tell y'all this quick story. So I may post this picture. I got to try to clean it up. So I know Mom is on here. My Uncle Junior, he sent me this picture of myself, and he said that I had been telling y'all that I've been reading since I was 4. He was like, no, Pooh, you was 3. And he said, I remember. And he sent me this picture when I was 3 years old. It was some kind of event, like a Head Start graduation or contest or something. And he said he remembers that nobody taught me, and he cracked me up because he said, I was reading, and he said that he was going to take me down to see if I could count cards, but my mom said she would kick his ass. Oh gosh, I probably shouldn't tell that story, but that just cracked me up. Everybody got an Uncle Junebug or Uncle Junior. That's hilarious. Anyway, family, let's get out of here. Enjoy your Saturday. I'm wishing you more goodness than you've ever received or imagined. Stay in receivership mode. Be an example. Let's show our children and the people around us a different way of handling life. And let's make sure that they watch us handle things with dignity and with class, and that we choose love and ourselves. Anyway, peace and blessings. I've been sipping on my Mandela masala chai, and it then got cold. So that means I got to go heat this up, and I'm going to get on my workout. So peace and blessings, family. Love y'all. Happy Saturday.